Hey there, welcome to another episode of Psilocybin Says. My name is Courtney Rose.
And I'm Eric Masturbation Osborne.
Wow. Now you know what we're talking about. I was going to say, now's a great time to grab your headphones if you have little ones in the room, because we will be talking a lot about a quite stigmatized topic, which is self-pleasure, i.e., masturbation.
Mm-hmm.
So
this was Courtney came out of left field with this one. It was like, Eric, let's talk about touching ourselves.
okay.
I was like, all right, finally.
Yeah, it'll make a lot more sense when you listen to the full episode, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a tutorial.
Right. So before you get any funny ideas, just hang in there. You're going to have to, work through about 10 minutes of Eric's puns, which are pretty enjoyable as well.
All right. Thanks.
But yeah,
It's all my pleasure, baby.
That's right. Exactly. That's what I'm getting back to. And that's why this episode felt right to record at this time in my life. I'm a relatively new mom. I became a mom 5 years ago, and I've just kind of lost touch. Okay, seriously, if you're not watching on YouTube, like really, what are you doing? Okay, wow. This episode, I just don't even know.
We're gonna start a whole new show. Okay.
Seriously, sincerely, not seriously, sincerely. This did feel like it felt really important for me to talk about this because it's something that I haven't really had the opportunity or the know-how to talk about self-pleasure and I guess I'd say, sexual sense. Just like being able to be with myself in a very intimate and vulnerable way has been quite a journey, as I would guess it has been for you as well, listening, and for most people out there. And so my intention with this is to just practice talking about this topic of sex and pleasure and like remove the stigma. Like eventually I would love for this to be as common of a conversation in North America as it is in some other countries. I know like the United States is somewhat unique compared to other countries. Like I heard Japan the other day is apparently a lot more okay with just casually talking about sex and like the status of our sex lives, which I think is really cool. And yeah, I want our kids to feel like this is something that they can ask us about and like help us guide them to different resources and feel like it's welcome. So this is my effort. This is the beginning of my effort in helping normalize this conversation. And I really hope that you listening enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Eric had some great things to share as well. I was going to try and come up with a pun, but it didn't go.
Okay. Well, I'm really proud of you for having this conversation. This is not something that women talk about publicly, hardly ever. And, and I'm proud of myself for having this conversation with you because it's not necessarily an easy thing to have a video conversation with my beautiful wife about her touching herself for everyone to then be, loading that into their imagination. So
yeah, I didn't even think about that really until just brought it up.
But I am really grateful that you are wanting to have this kind of conversation more openly because it will encourage others. We've got to let the shame go. We've got to embrace, our being. It is a beautiful thing. There's not a dirty thing to it. So hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share that content.
If you're brave, you can comment. If you're watching on YouTube, you can drop a comment and just like give us a little indicator.
Considerate, not some freak crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to. No judgment. It's all good. You might not get a response, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And just if you really enjoy it, like really consider sharing this with someone who you feel like would benefit from.
I'm imagining people sharing this episode. Hey, I want to share with you this episode on masturbation.
For some reason.
Actually, women, you married women or partnered women, you might want to share this with your partner because Courtney highlights the fact that I, in my encouragement, was the impetus for her masturbation. And more men, I truly believe, should be encouraging their women to experience pleasure.
And women encouraging men in an intentional way.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
true.
For sure.
Men don't
and
really
women
need as much permission.
Women, men encouraging men. And all of the combos, like
circle jerk masturbation party. I'm just imagining that the thousands of people after listening to this episode just like masturbating in unison.
I hope you masturbate after watching this.
Unison. Let's coordinate on the YouTube comments a time for everyone to masturbate after watching this.
Sure. That is very
I'm just kind of kidding.
Yeah. We're figuring this out, you all.
Yeah. Completely don't know what we're doing.
That's right. So hope you enjoy. And remember, we release new episodes every single week on Spotify, iTunes, now YouTube. And so make sure you're subscribed, you all, so you get notified.
And guys, just because we release doesn't mean you have to as well.
Ding, ding, ding. You got to watch now to find out.
That's right. Now you got to listen to the full episode to understand what that's all about.
Yeah. So enjoy.
Thanks as always. All right. We are talking about the grand old topic of
self-pleasure.
Specifically masturbation.
Oh, my God. Almost drooled on myself.
Whoa, we see it's working.
Just laughing nervously. A drool almost flew out of my mouth. I
love talking about things that nobody else wants to talk about.
Yeah, this is a great follow-up episode.
However, Courtney is the one who wanted to talk about masturbation. Tell them why.
Why did you not say it like that?
Why?
Okay, fine, you can.
Masturbation.
Now is the time when we ask you to put your headphones on. If you have children in the car, you don't want to hear masturbation said 10 times and then have to figure out how to talk with them about it when you were prepared.
What's that sound he's making, Mommy?
Okay, that has to be the last time.
All right.
Okay, so, all right. We recorded an episode about porn a few months ago. Was that a few months ago? Feels like it. And it really felt like, it seemed like maybe that was misinterpreted a little bit from people who didn't listen to it.
Hard to interpret.
It was like people saw in the title and description that's what we were talking about, and they just assumed that we were like bashing masturbation or self-pleasure or something.
Did someone say this to you?
Well, it seems like someone said that yesterday. Like I was overhearing that maybe that was said, but
people hear what they want to hear.
It's true. So anyway, how do we begin talking about this? I guess just going from there, like, what?
Maybe a demo.
Wow. Probably not.
No,
probably not ready for the OnlyFans.
All right, Courtney wanted to talk about masturbation because
all kinds of reasons. I don't know if I should just come out with it.
You should just come right out with it.
Wow. I feel like my cheeks are going to be so red this entire episode. If you're not watching on YouTube, then what are you waiting for? All right. When did this start? So, like,
You know when it
why are you
started.
looking at me like that?
Because you're all
When
nervous
I was 6
about it.
years old in my Barbie tent. Well, all right. I guess it recently resurfaced when,
Popped up.
if you don't stop making jokes, I will not be able to
All right, there's just so many
sincerely talk about this.
fun puns.
I know.
All right.
It's really.
I'm a pun star. Humor is how you broach uncomfortable
Yeah,
topics.
I'm about it.
That's one way.
Okay. Well, it was like a few weeks ago or a month ago, probably a few weeks ago. We were sitting in this room and I don't really know how the topic came up, but I was having a really hard day, I think is how it started.
Mhm.
And I was feeling really anxious and overwhelmed, and I was feeling like having the worthiness thing come up, like not feeling valued and having trouble seeing my value and what I bring to the world, and feeling really low. And you suggested that I go masturbate.
I want to rub one out, I think is what I said.
I don't remember how you said it, but it was not well received by me. And like I laughed really hard. I thought, that's hilarious that you would make such a ridiculous recommendation when I'm feeling so low. Why would you think part of my lowness and stress was feeling completely overwhelmed and completely undervalued by everybody around me, which really ultimately means myself. And so it was really hard for me to fathom taking the time to go upstairs when I'm feeling really overwhelmed by all the things I have to do, to touch myself in an enjoyable way. And I really thought that was ridiculous that you were suggesting that. And then you looked at me like I was laughing and you were stone cold serious. And I said, "Oh, you're serious right now? You really want me to go do that? Like, aren't you going to be offended, or aren't you going to be like have some negative feeling about that if I independently, while you're downstairs, go upstairs and masturbate?" And like, which is interesting considering how great of a sex life we have and how I somehow created the idea that in a way, like, I'm cheating on you or something by independently, like, while you're home, like going away and touching myself. And so this kind of goes back to the porn episode, which I just brought up, and me kind of realizing that my association with masturbation and self-pleasure for a very long time has been directly tied to watching porn, which I haven't done. I lost interest in doing, like, I don't know, years ago, really. And since becoming a mom 5 years ago, I have really maybe like 3 times masturbated. And so it really hit me that day. I completely broke down when I realized that my husband is encouraging me to go take the time to feel good and take care of myself and like just make love with myself. And I really felt like I can't do it. I just became a ball of tears and just lost it on the couch. And after I had that breakdown, I went into the fuck it mode. Like, whatever I've been doing recently is not working for me. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm sad. I need to take care of myself. And fuck it. I'm going to go masturbate. And I went upstairs and I just I laid down on our bed and I just took some breaths, and my whole body was just like vibrating from having just broken down and crying for like 20 minutes straight, pretty much, which was like a huge release in itself. And I just started touching myself, and it felt really good. It felt really good. And so I did that for like 20 minutes until, orgasm. And I felt amazing. I felt so good, and I felt so connected with myself. And I felt liberated and really, really grateful to be alive. And for like 3 days after that, I felt like I was on cloud 9, which I don't know how this sounds to you all listening, but I am really curious to know, like, what do people think?
What's your masturbation practice?
In the comments below. Please let us know how you masturbate.
The comments could get out of control on this one.
We already get enough spam around psychedelic.
Overwhelm the bots, please, unless it turns to porn bots now, because we're not.
Yeah, it's going to now be a mix of psychedelic porn bots.
Meet hot XX girls on
and buy drugs online.
Fuck. No, this is a really valuable conversation. And I bet there are a lot of particularly women out there that can identify with this. The pressures on mothers in particular to just always be on call, to always be taking care of someone else, it's enormous. It's enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And, men, it's like men have been like jerking off and getting drunk and doing all the stuff they want to do for so long. It's just like, So, but this is a conversation that, I think men have obviously some valuable input as well. So I guess what my question is for you, though, is that was several weeks ago. How has that impacted your self-engagement since then? Is it something that you have revisited, or was that a one and done, so to speak?
Well, to prepare for this episode today, I went and masturbated yesterday. Thanks to your suggestion again. Yeah. Well, it's been a process, like everything. I felt like, again, kind of referencing our last episode. This is such a good next episode, but I felt like this was an absolute. Like, when this happened a few weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to masturbate every day. I'm never going back. I'm a free woman. Life is going to be so much better forever. I'm going to wear whatever I want and like just walk like I just masturbated. Wherever I go, it'll be all over my face. I'll be glowing. Well, not, well, I don't. I take that back. It's not going to be all over my face.
No, this is the thing,
Mom.
though, right? Lighten the fuck up, everybody. We take shit so seriously. We're like, and I mean, I grew up in a the whole Catholic home, where God, there was never one time that my parents ever uttered the word masturbation, ever, ever. I was thinking about this today when Jacob and I were down there working on the washing machine, how, oh God, it's a share. Can I give a share? It's a share.
Yeah, sure.
Because it was something that we didn't talk about, yet it's for young boys in particular, I think, but I'm curious for girls more so as well, but it's fucking compulsive, and because I never had a conversation about it and there was so much shame around it, but I was still just like couldn't help myself, I would end up just like beating off in socks and throwing socks under the bed, and there's all these crusty socks under the bed, and nobody ever talked about it. And
Right.
it's fucking horrible, man. That was like a horrible feeling to just never be able to, and I never even talked to my friends about it. There was so much shame around the whole thing. So, I think wrapped up in this conversation, there are a couple of subtopics, one being shame of sexuality, but maybe even more important is our tendency to deny ourselves pleasure. And maybe that's not everybody. Maybe that's, I guess it's not everybody for sure. But overall, do we live in a society that embraces healthy pleasure, or that kind of doesn't talk about healthy pleasure, and then pleasure ends up manifesting itself in ways that are unhealthy, which I think is the pornography industry. It's a huge part of that. So masturbation and porn are tied together because, well, for multiple reasons, but I think part of that is this whole, the shame and guilt forces you to go and do these things behind closed doors, and it just creates an industry and a kind of a culture of shame. I don't know. Talk more though about your experience with pleasure itself and allowing yourself to embrace not just sexual pleasure, but just pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. So pleasure. That's, gosh. Oh, where do I begin? So I don't know if it's like a twisted relationship with pleasure, or I'm trying to remember like my earliest memories of pleasure, and I felt like when I reflect back on those memories, they're very closely associated with working really hard. Like, I have to work really hard in order to experience pleasure. Like, really push the boundaries of, it's almost like that, like marathoner mentality. Like, I've got to exhaust myself in order to experience pleasure. And also wrapped up in that is a hope that it will help gain my parents' approval, like working for their approval and their just seeking that experience from them. So like an external gratification. And that then, as I grew up, manifested in relationships with other people and jobs, and where like I kind of lost touch. And especially Well, sorry, I'm like
It's okay.
a little bit all over the place trying to like remember this experience throughout my life, but I feel like I got back in touch with pleasuring myself without needing to also tie other people into that for like a year or so in my early 20s. When I kind of let go, I let go of a lot. I started smoking cannabis and started practicing that experience of like just really letting go of tension that I'd been holding for a long time. And then kind of crept back in, like when you and I started dating, and I really started wanting to spend a lot more time with you and build a relationship with you. This whole mentality that I've had my whole life came back in of I've got to work really hard in this relationship, and in order to feel like pleased with myself about it. Again, that kind of like external validation thing. And then when we had our first child together, it's almost like my concept of self-pleasure just went out the window. I forgot that I exist for myself too, not just to make things work and happen and to keep people fed and keep roofs over people's heads. And like, I've just forgot that I do that for me as well. And which I know is the case for a lot of moms and women. It's, a societal framework, which I think everybody listening to this podcast is probably very familiar with. And so in the last 5 years since we had our first son, we have maintained an amazing sex life. And in my head, I just told myself that when people bring up masturbation or needing to masturbate or wanting to masturbate, I've been like, I don't need that. I have a great sex life with my husband. Why would I need to masturbate? I'm good. But what I was missing there is that sometimes it's really nice to just be with me and enjoy me and experience me without someone else there. And that's a really special, meaningful thing to do. I'm relearning. So, yeah, that was a broken version of my experience with self-pleasure.
It was all connected. It makes perfect sense. And it is a process that is continuing to unfold. It just, as you're sharing that, part of me is feeling a lot of compassion for you, and part of me is feeling or hearing my own story, growing up in a work family. And I don't think I masturbated for pleasure as a child. It was, or in my youth and growing up, it was more of a release or a relief kind of thing, from this like itch that needed to scratch. And since Mantak Chia's work, actually have been more able to understand it from a point of pleasure and energy, arousal of energy, because even like pleasure itself, if you just think about the word and the sensation of pleasure, is this kind of embracing the moment, embracing life. And so in the past, using that behavior as a way to kind of avoid what I'm feeling. Now being able to experience it as a way of really embracing a feeling and separating sex from ejaculation has been a really important part of that as well. You know, men tend to have this kind of results-driven experience with sexuality, and that is, I think that's detrimental in terms of experiencing pleasure and extending a pleasurable state and helping share pleasure with someone else.
Yeah, women too. That's as well a very common thing that comes up when I speak with my female friends around that, like directing sex energy and the topic of semen retention and not needing to or wanting to orgasm release outwardly. That's a very foreign concept for, I think, most men and women, which, coming back to the porn topic, that's kind of what I thought masturbation was, because of the association with watching porn while masturbating and feeling like I'm giving away that very special, intimate energy, giving it to other people. And it oftentimes has felt very draining for me in the past, like not necessarily very rejuvenating. Draining. So
I just, before we started this podcast, I was checking the old IG feed, and there's a woman on there I follow that's the quantum sex coach, you know, and she had a thing that said something about like healthy sexuality energizes you, unhealthy sexuality drains you. And I think that is really a very valuable distinction to draw, both in terms of personal, like self-pleasuring or sexuality with someone else. You know, is it energizing you? Is it giving you pleasure, which is like, yeah, more? Or is it like this kind of like crescendo crash that's not pleasure, actually? It's not.
Yeah. That is really like a very new concept to me, and in terms of like, even like with you and me, that energy is creative energy at its core. And that question of what am I and what are we using that energy for? And whatever we're engaging with that energy is building more of that which we're engaging
100%.
with. So
100%. I mean, if people were to really think about when you are watching a porn video and you're masturbating to that, if you were to really consider the reality of that energy that you are pouring into, and that not just you, but hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions. Like, I remember back in the day watching videos, and like there'd be you porn videos and shit that have fucking 10 million views and stuff, and it's like, oh my God, the amount of energy that's being poured into that one scenario, and the incredible difference that I feel now whenever I do like move into that kind of self-pleasure space and I think of us, it's like I went from like taking a fire hose and just spraying it all over here, all over the concrete, and it's just running off, to spraying this fire hose into my own swimming pool. And yes, I
like
get
your
the
fires.
visual. I didn't mean it like that. Just think in terms of energy,
Right.
it's a very, very real thing. And so you can take that and you can love yourself. You can really nurture a lot of self-love and pleasure for your own existence. It's part of the equation as well. Many of us are taught that the body is the root of all sin. You're born in original sin. You're in a body, so you're a sinner. So, it's like from the start, you get just a head fucked about what it's like to just enjoy being in this divine body. This is incredible that we are in these bodies and we can experience them the way that we do. And the fact that religion has, I think we talked about this recently in one of our conversations about the male chastity belts, where they would seriously have metal spikes inside of metal shorts that they would lock on to young boys. So if they started to get an erection, it would poke against the spikes. Like, that was a real thing that humans did to deny their humanity.
Enter the porn industry.
And then, of course, what's going to arise out of that? But just,
Yeah, severe suppression of that, of what is core to our existence, and trying to not feel horrible about primal urges.
This is one of the most important topics for me, and it's one that I would love to really expand more on, not necessarily just on this podcast, but in some of the work that I do with our members and just our society overall, is trying to bring that pendulum back somewhere center. We went from chastity belts to OnlyFans, and there's got to be a middle ground there somewhere where we can enjoy the body and its functions and its pleasure centers, but not turn it into some objectification of a human being, right? Sexuality is spirituality, period. It's spirituality. And I certainly have made the mistake of not being aware of that. Fortunately, those mistakes have helped me really get the impact. And the more I learn about this, the more I find that it is such an important part of real, deep, spiritual, physical, mental health, is a balanced sex life.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes self pleasure.
Yeah,
that's something that's really important that people know themselves.
It's something that 99.9% of people, I mean, maybe that number is wrong, but are doing, but in a totally uninformed, confused way for most people. And that's why I wanted to talk about this publicly. I don't want our children to feel like I can't talk about this, so I'm just going to go online and figure it out in some willy-nilly kind of way and just kind of gamble on whatever they come across.
You're going to come across unhealthy material. Healthy sexuality
that's the easiest thing to really find if you're not knowing what you're looking for. So, yeah, if we can practice just talking about this, eventually it won't be so stigmatized to the point where you can't talk about it with your friends. Because it's that's how I felt for all this time in my life. It's so stigmatized to talk about sex. And even now in my friend groups that I have, which I've mindfully cultivated, it's half of the women just kind of peel out of the conversation. It's just so hard to talk about.
Is it more acceptable to talk about sex with a partner or masturbation, or is there a difference between the two within your group of friends?
Is there a difference in,
Like if you were to talk about masturbation versus partnered sexuality, is one more stigmatized than the other, or is one more taboo than the other?
that's a good question. It depends on the person. I feel like it's either or none. Like either somebody is totally willing to talk about masturbation but horrified to talk about sex with another person, or the opposite, or just I don't want to talk about it at all type of thing. It's usually not, I mean, yeah, very few women. It's like game.
Well, and men, if they do, it's usually in a very
men,
kind of brute, like, even me. I mean, it was like kind of opening up here with a bunch of jokes around the thing, to kind of, but that's only because I feel like I do like making jokes, but there's also a tension that needs to be released as well, trying to talk about something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all tied together the way men and women.
I wonder how many men, I haven't thought about this yet, but am I unique in encouraging my wife to go masturbate?
Yeah.
Probably so.
Yes, you are. That is not a common occurrence. I mean, I guess I'm guessing because I've not directly, I don't think I've ever asked any of my friends, because this is very recent for us. And so.
Well, I mean, we're only coming to a pretty recent time in modern society when a woman's orgasm in partnered sex was even like considered possibly a necessity or possibly something that you should put some effort into.
Right. Exactly. And so like that's where I want to clarify that when we're talking about engaging in pornography, like I want to be clear that I get it. I get the need and the desire and the strong drive to figure out like what do other people do, because I don't know. I don't have anybody to talk to about it like openly. And this is, of course, I'm going to try and figure that out. And once you build that repetition in the pattern, then that's the way that you continue to like program yourself to bring on that sensation of the self-pleasure experience. So like, I totally get it. And like, if you're watching porn all the time, then like, clearly you're not alone. Let's be clear about that. Like most people are. So there's no reason to feel like ashamed about it at all. So yeah, there's that. What was the question you just asked me? Did you ask me something?
Well, I was just saying about, women only recently becoming their orgasms matter, actually.
Thanks. Yeah, right. So, that has such big implications. Like, I guess I'm thinking about all kinds of things. There's just like so many things to like destigmatize that I'm like, where do I start with talking about this? But I guess that does play into my perceived ability to self-pleasure and be okay with like not orgasming, because that's always kind of been associated for me. Like once I felt like I was with a partner that really wanted me to have that experience, then it became difficult to transition into a place where I can just enjoy and be in the moment and experience pleasure without thinking about this is what I need to do. I need to get to this place in order to feel like I'm doing this right, or for my partner to feel like he's doing things right or she's doing things right or whatever. And so that's a whole journey in itself for women, is like just being in the moment of enjoying it. And I'm sure men too. Like
definitely not to the extent for women. I mean, it's obviously been a male-centered experience for a long time.
Yeah. But as far as being in the moment during like a sexual experience for men, like what's that? Could you speak on that? Like what that's been like for you, like being in the moment?
I mean, as far as I can remember, that's not true. It didn't take very long for me to put a lot of focus on the woman having experience and pleasure. Like high school and to some extent early college years, that really wasn't a consideration. And then, yeah, I don't know. I've just always wanted to make sure that any woman I was with was enjoying herself and was there because she wanted to be and wanted but that gets clouded still, even that, because one of the things that I have really tried to explore over the years, and this is a bit of a tangent, but it speaks to the being in the moment by not being in the moment, is you grow up as a male. I feel like we grow up being told that we're supposed to talk women into sex, right? We're supposed to, women are seductive and men are persuasive. And that's really unhealthy. And it sets up some subtle unhealthy behaviors that you don't even know are there, and it prevents you from being really fully aware of whether or not this is truly something that everybody wants, because you're just told that your job is to convince a woman to have sex with you, right?
Yeah, it's pretty tricky.
It sets you up for a lot of head fuckery. It really does. And that's something that I feel like even with our relationship, that's been something that I've had to continue to check myself and come back to. And thankfully, I feel like we have greater and greater communication where you're able to help me become aware of whether, what's the big picture here. Because that's not being in the moment, right? That's living in a goal-centered kind of whatever behavior. So being in the moment is really like an awareness to what's happening, how everybody feels about the situation, and of the cues and clues that you're getting, and still maintaining a level of respect. And so for me, gosh, this is such a big topic that you opened up here that I really, I've put a lot more attention on this, or brought my awareness to this bigger picture a lot more, especially through the poly stuff and in and out of all that. And, just experiencing being around women. We're taught also that if a fucking woman smiles at you, it means that she wants to have sex with you. And then then it's your job to persuade her to do that. So you're living in the future of this goal, versus it's so much more satisfying in a sexual experience and in just interpersonal relationships to just be right here, right now, and not have an expectation or be working towards a goal, and even in my sex life with you and without, the goal to please the woman in terms of an orgasm continues to take you out of the moment that you're in, and being in the moment is how you actually build to that place, you know, so it's been a continued practice in both, again, like partner sexuality, in just pure interpersonal relationships, and in my own self-pleasure, to keep coming back to, I'm not working towards a goal. I'm just here to experience the pleasure of this unfolding, whatever it is. And I will say that, God, I experience so much more pleasure in all of those aspects now, but particularly in my just platonic relationships with women, because I am not thinking about, does she want me? How can I get her to want me? If she doesn't want me, why didn't she want me? It's just like, you're just a fucking cool person that I'm here with, and it's a great pleasure to be here with you. You know, it's so much. Oh,
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense for a variety of reasons, but we're such a goal results oriented culture. I mean, that's what the whole like resurgence of meditation and mindfulness and psychedelics has probably something to do with, is we're all just really trying to get back to the meaning, and just like not the meaning, but like the experience,
the moment.
moment. What are we here for? Because making $10 million or whatever doesn't seem to make somebody really have a more fulfilled life. So that's not it. And getting the job isn't it. And having the family isn't it, when we're just using that as like a result, a goal to achieve. So it's not in getting there.
Yeah.
The journey.
Don't masturbate just to have an orgasm. Masturbate just to masturbate.
Yeah.
Feel good.
Yeah. Just for the experience of it.
Yeah.
And that's been something that I've really noticed in the last few weeks, is me feeling more open to doing what feels good. Like it's trickled out into other aspects of my life, being more willing to delegate tasks that I don't need to be doing. Somebody else would probably be happier doing certain things than me.
And you can do the things that are more productive and more enjoyable.
And I can do things, that I enjoy more, and allowing myself to let go of some pressure to do unenjoyable things.
It gives me great pleasure to see you have more pleasure. And I don't just mean sexually. I just mean like just to be able to like let go and enjoy this ride. And that's what I hope for all of us. You know, some people get great pleasure out of hacking away at a typewriter or crunching numbers or digging ditches or whatever the hell it is. And that's really, I just want to see more people just dive into what pleases them. You know, I just had a wonderful conversation with someone who was like talking about how like they need to quit drinking, need to quit drinking. I'm like, how much do you drink? Like a beer or two a night. Why do you want to quit drinking? Because my wife says I should quit drinking. Like, do you enjoy drinking? Yeah. Do you want to stop drinking? No. Then like, can we reevaluate this whole fucking equation then? Right? Like, if you having a beer, if me having a beer while I cook dinner gives me pleasure and it's not fucking up my life, then who is to tell me to stop? Or so it's just, I don't know, just everybody finding what it is that pleases them. You may find yourself in an unhealthy kind of part of that spectrum at some point, but if you continue to try to come back to what authentically brings you to the moment and brings you pleasure in the moment, then you will find yourself engaging in whatever behavior it is healthily. You can have it all can be healthy.
Yeah, totally. the medicine is in the dose.
So is the poison.
Right. I tried to reframe it, you know. I was going to say the poison, but
Yeah.
it's also the medicine too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all connected, which is cool. It's an unexpected benefit for me of taking the time to just enjoy myself.
Yeah.
Is
Baby, you spend
just
so much time
enjoy
taking care of
myself.
other people. The kids are from 6 a.m. or like me. I'm constantly just pestering you, and work is constantly, and it's just like you're always looking out. And that is the condition that the majority of women, particularly mothers, are in. And I want to encourage you mothers to go masturbate more. Fathers, you need to hold. You can go ahead and
Yeah.
play with it.
Ladies,
but,
just
like,
put down the spatula and tell your man,
take off that apron.
I'm going upstairs and I'm taking off my clothes. And you're going to cook dinner.
Ooh.
And I am going to go toast these buns on my own. I don't know. I was trying to keep the kitchen analogy.
Man, I was getting so turned on, and then you went there with
And
it.
then I'm getting a suntan. I don't know where that happened.
It's perfectly okay.
But thank you for encouraging me to enjoy my life in all different
God.
kinds of ways.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I consider that to be like a really, really fortunate thing and experience. There's just so many people who have just like forgotten that that's a thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're not capable of enjoying our own lives, then we're not capable
Fucking
of
why are we
encouraging somebody
here?
else to enjoy theirs. And so,
Yeah.
and it's not just women. It's all tied together. And like,
For sure.
men, like how many women encourage their men to
No,
go
I would
masturbate?
encourage men to, hold their
Right.
semen
intentionally. That's the thing, because
redirect that energy.
when we are like, when I'm using that energy, and like, of course, like me giving myself self pleasure in this way is very recent, in the past like few weeks, again, in my life. But like partnered
Mm-hmm.
for some time, like not as consistently at all as what I would want, but intentionally visualizing and like directing that energy together, and now like with myself, like being intentional with what is coming up for me. And sometimes it's just like being with what's here and like experiencing that, just like a mindfulness meditation, like what's coming up and just letting it go, and what's coming up and letting it go. And then sometimes like really envisioning a really amazing future for our family, and envisioning the things that I do want to create in our lives, and putting that energy there. And it makes a big difference.
Massive.
Like after that, I don't know, last night, that's what I was doing. And I woke up feeling really good. Like I woke up feeling like just really motivated and full of energy and happy. And, then the kids started crying, but
Yeah. They would have done that anyway. So
right. I might as well
wake up feeling great.
Right.
Charge your life. That's what we should be doing, is charging our lives with pleasure, with richness, with experience that like just makes it, just brings more depth and more like to it. More There's a great video out there on London Real. If you're not familiar with that channel, Brian Rose, excellent interviewer over in the UK, and he interviews some interesting people. Mantak Chia is one of them, and there's a video out there called "Masturbate Your Way to Heaven," where Mantak Chia talks about cultivating sexual energy and using it to build and strengthen your internal organs and your energetic body, bring more joy. How's he say it? Peace, joy, and happiness, or something like that, into your life through self-pleasure. It's actually something that is really not just valuable, but important.
Can we title this episode that?
Masturbate Your Way to Heaven.
Heaven?
I like to find something a little more creative, probably.
Maybe we should rename our podcast Sex.
Courtney comes to a conclusion.
No, I mean like our podcast as a whole. Sex, psychedelics, and what's the other most stigmatized? Death.
Death?
That's another thing you just like can't talk about without everybody going silent and then changing the subject.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to have a more of an outlet to really talk about human sexuality. I feel like the journey that I have been on, that I could really benefit a lot of men, honestly. Yeah. And I just, it's just one of the foundations of a healthy existence. And because we don't talk about it, we don't realize how important it is to who we are. We just kind of treat it like, I don't know, just like
nasty little
it's
thing
just
in
a
the
dirty
corner
little thing that we don't
at.
talk about, right? Or it's this scandalous thing that we only talk about with some people. It's every bit as important as the food that you eat. Every bit.
Oh yeah.
Every bit. And of course, we can see how we have treated that as a culture as well. We got a lot of healing to do there, America. America. So anyway,
well, it's a process.
It's a process. It's a process. Glad to be in the process with you. Don't send us any pictures or
Please don't.
No, we're not asking for any of that stuff. This is not an invitation for a dick pic. Just because you got a pretty woman talking about masturbating does not mean she wants you to send her a picture of your phallus. Please don't.
No, it's not what I want from this episode.
Disclaimer. Thanks y'all for listening, and hopefully this has been worth your consideration anyway.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.